Hey everybody, Dan here with DansMillionaireCode, and every week I bring you a super mega Jedi genius from the ether, and these geniuses will share how they built incredible companies, transacted incredible companies, and from nothing, from dirt, and they will share with you virtually how you can do it too. So today's guest, we've been friends like a long time, right?
It's been a long time.
Like forever, man. Before we were getting grays and stuff, you know.
Before all this happened.
You still got a lot of hair, man.
Yeah, thank you. So do you.
This is my great friend, James Jensen, and he is the CEO and founder of Jump. He's an entrepreneur committed to working with cutting-edge technology. He solves all kinds of problems in the universe. And he creates massive virtual worlds. You may have heard of The Void. He invented that. Transacted that, and also has a massive experience portfolio in creation with Sandman Studios, which was one of your previous deals.
Yep.
So within the last 25 years, he's founded and managed many technology companies in video streaming, social networks, mobile gaming, and other creative services. He's partnered with Disney, Sony Entertainment, Fox, MGM, Intel, Microsoft, SyFy, Dreamworks, and MTV through those ventures.
Yeah, MTV's on the list.
Dude, I got the little moon guy. So he's now launching a new form of virtual reality, which I'll let you talk about. It's called hyper reality. This is so cool for you nerds like me out there. In the form of a multi-sensory entertainment company called Jump. And it allows people to come close to, well, I'll let him get into that, okay?
Yeah,
it's so freaking cool. So, man, we've been friends for a long time. We both love computing, gaming, technology. So tell us a little bit about kind of where you came from, like your dirt, and how you got to like today.
Yeah, thanks, man. I came from the visual arts. My dad was an oil painter, and so he taught me how to oil paint. I got into airbrushing, and then I took commercial art and design at UVU. And then quickly got into computers. Loved the delete and undo button. Was pretty nice. So I switched over to digital art, and then I started getting into computer animation, visual effects, and then into some programming. Did the whole action script thing with Flash, building video games, online games for companies like Dreamworks and Stuart Little too. Before I founded Sandman Studios. And then did visual effects with Sandman Studios, Hollywood kind of stuff. We did, work with, on movies like Scooby-Doo 2. Wow. And then we did a couple other effects films. And through that whole process, we were messing around with technology where we were seeing real-time composites of actors inside a blue screen, virtual environments. And it was all on a screen like that. And I was like, man, I want to be inside this screen. I want to be inside the system.
Like Tron, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I finally got in, And so, I've seen all this happening. And then virtual reality was pretty new, relatively coming in the consumer level market with, Palmer Luckey doing his thing with Oculus. I actually had ideas of doing that, getting into virtual simulation before Palmer came up with the headset. I was like, oh, sweet, he did that part. I don't need to do that anymore. It's awesome. But that's kind of where The Void came from, was that idea of being on set, seeing real-time environments with people composited into them. And I was like, wow, I want to be part of that. And we were matching, virtual sets with physical items so the actors could go in and touch things. I was like, that's going to be so cool.
Crazy.
What would it be like to be in a simulation where you can match certain things to the environment and walk around in it? I think that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. I remember when you talked about that project when you were first starting. You're like, dude, Dan, we need you guys to build us some
crazy
warp core transducer, overclocked death kill virtual reality engine.
Yeah, those were some crazy times. We were like duct taping laptops to the back of people and like putting the headset on them, and we were really trying to push the boundaries of like what we could do with mobile GPUs. And unfortunately, most of the the hard motherboards and stuff were written in the BIOS that once you unplug that baby from the wall, it's kind of like that still. Uh-huh. You plug it from the wall, it's like a cell phone. You have to have a crazy amount of power to run the GPUs on those backpacks. So we ended up having to build our own like custom machines, but what the early on work that we did was so fun to try to experiment with those dual SLI laptops and things like that. But you were in the very beginning of the Void. Like, what was the experience that you remember back in the day? You went through a couple of them, didn't you?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, the big thing was when you were standing like on a big drop off.
Yeah.
Which was really killer. But then fighting the alien dragon creatures, and you had all kinds of crazy creatures, but they would actually like burn you. Like not physically burn you, but the heat would come out, and you'd feel the dragon spit hitting your face when it was like, ah! And then you're like, ah! And then the alien dude, and you're all, bam, 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 you're killing the alien dude. It was weird because, and this is like, how long ago was that? This is like.
It was 2015.
Wow, so a while back, and technology now has gotten so much better, so I'm really excited about the jump.
Yeah.
But man, my heart was pounding.
Yeah.
Like when I was in this virtual reality. It was almost like being in D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, right? It was like
being there.
You were, or in Doom,
Yeah, exactly. I think that was some of the things that we discovered was totally accidental. I mean, we were doing this just for entertainment. Like, let's build this cool world, and we're going to this place, and it could be anything. What I didn't realize is what happens to the individual and kind of the psychology behind what was going on. Like, we did stuff where there was a torch, right? It's not a real torch, but in virtual reality, you grab the torch handle and you go over and you light it in this thing, and we had a heat element that blew the heat on you, right? When you lit it. And so then what we found was even when people walked away from the heat element, there was no heat element on the stick. But they still felt like there was heat there.
Like
and so,
phantom heat?
Yeah, phantom heat. It was like all this stuff that our minds like kind of create almost. And so we found that we only have to develop or create really only about 20% of reality for people to kind of fill in the gaps with their mind.
Whoa.
Which is so cool. Which then that opens a whole bunch of things.
So you watched when you were little, and you guys have watched like Star Trek with the holodeck, on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
It was truly, in my mind, like the holodeck. I mean, it was
right.
Whoa.
It was at the point, even from the very beginning, we were kind of looking at that, but I really didn't understand kind of the power that it had to, and that's why, for me personally, I kind of switched the terminology over to hyper reality because people were coming out of the experience, like really seasoned virtual reality nutties that were like crawling around the ground and like touching the ground and stuff to see if it was real. They were coming out of it saying, this is even different than virtual reality. And if you look at how virtual reality is defined in the market right now, it's really a headset. What does the headset provide? Visuals and audio, and that's it. So virtual reality in the market is visuals and audio. What we did at The Void was visuals, audio, and then all the physical senses your body expects to have in a virtual experience. And that actually solves a lot of the nausea and stuff that you have in the experience.
I didn't get sick in there.
Yeah, you don't get sick, and one of the biggest reasons of that, it's not frame rate. Like, frame rate is an issue and things like that, latency. But when your body doesn't have evidence that the visuals that you're seeing are real, it feels like it's tripping. It feels like, yeah, it's a very natural response. It's like, dude, you ate some weird mushrooms. You need to get that out of your system. Like, you're tripping because it feels like you're hallucinating. But when you have heat, for instance, that matches the visuals, your body's like, oh, this is totally real. And so then it feels like you're not hallucinating. When you walk through the door and you touch your hands on the door as you walk through, those are all evidence that the visuals that you're seeing are real. And so you almost cross, my hypothesis is you're crossing the boundary of a virtual experience into hyper reality and even a real experience when your mind can map and create a memory of when you think back of the void, it's kind of like, yeah, I remember being in these positions and doing this and how I felt.
It changes your emotions though so quickly.
Yeah.
Like, it almost changes, like when you're like exploring the labyrinth in there, it feels like you have that labyrinth exploring, you know?
Yeah.
And then suddenly, dragon, and all that fear, your heart rate's like...
Yep.
So have you hooked up like EKGs, heart rate monitors and stuff to like people just to see what happens?
Yeah, we've already started doing some research and studies towards kind of what these virtual reality experience... Dude, just go online, look at YouTube at like VR fails. People put on this headset and within seconds they believe it's real and they run into a wall. Like, that's how real it is for people. I've seen people... buy into a virtual reality experience. It almost puts them in a dreamlike state, and they'll do crazy stuff. Like, I've seen people dive and land on the ground, like face plant on the ground. And if I was to just pay you, like, if I was like, all right, what would it take? I'll pay you anything if you just put your hands behind your back and dive onto the ground on your face. Like, you couldn't do it.
No
way. But inside of virtual reality, it's a dream space, and people believe that it's, in some ways, they believe that it's real.
So these projects from 5 years ago are version 1 out.
Yep.
So now you've brought to like the next level of just crazy immersion. So
Right.
can you talk? Some of the stuff is super secretive, but what you can tell the viewers out there, because it's gonna be huge.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like billion, trillion dollar.
It really
experience,
is, actually.
yeah.
There's a lot that's coming down the pipe for what virtual reality simulations can be for people. For me, my mentality has shifted from virtual reality being for video games and entertainment to creating meaningful experiences for people. I saw people going through the void, and just by the mere fact of them going through a virtual experience that felt real to them, they came out of the experience almost like everything was possible again. And, they were completely open to new possibilities. And I was like, what is going on in there? And so through my research, observing people going through and then understanding some of the mapping that happens in your mind when you're walking around space and you have evidence of this, it's allowing people almost to be into a flow-like state. If you've heard people talk about flow or being in the moment, when you put on virtual reality and then in hyper reality, when you're getting all that evidence, you really go to a completely different place where you can't think about the past or the future. You're in the moment, like 100% in the moment. And so I was like, wow, that's a huge opportunity that we're missing, just using it for entertainment. Like, what if you have somebody's 100% attention, what do you want to tell them that could be meaningful for them in their life? Like, when they leave the experience, the moment after the experience is really the experience.
It changes.
How it applies to them in
Changes
their life.
the person.
Yep.
Whoa.
So that's what Jump is kind of about too. I really wanted to curate an experience after leaving the void, curate an experience that was meaningful for the individual. And Jump is about wingsuit and base jumping.
Whoa.
And so if you look at these guys that do this in reality, they do, Marshall Miller does like 3 to 5 jumps a week. And it's because when he jumps off, he gets into that flow state and it changes his life, changes his perspective on all kinds of things. And so just on a high level of flying in general, everybody, there's so many people in the world that have had a flying dream. There's something like root to human existence where we want to fly. There's something deep set in our psychology that we want to achieve that. And so this will be an attempt to and a solution to allow people to experience that at a really cool level.
When will normal human beings be able to experience this hyper reality?
So we started development, we got our first seed round funding in December last year, so we've been burning out and creating a prototype of...
COVID startup.
Yeah, COVID
Nice.
startup. It's been actually a great environment for our startup company, even though there are some, bad things in the world that are going on right now. It's such a cool environment for potential and possibilities for creating new technologies. I've seen people... Just the education that's been happening with COVID, people are using more. I mean, people that don't even know what virtual reality is, but they're being forced to use like online conferencing systems. And what's an online conferencing system? Like, you're getting this huge demographic of people that are starting to understand why virtual experiences are important to them. And I think that's awesome.
So let me ask you this, though. I'm going to ADD shift here for a second.
Yeah, do it. Go.
So if you started all these companies, transact a lot of these companies, now you got your new deal. What's the most painful butt kicking that you've had in your life? And I'd love for you to share this, though, because I want to also ask you how you overcame that.
Yeah. I like to think of all my past businesses as great learning experiences. And they always are. If you look at, and that's a lot what the Void and Jump definitely represents as an experience. If you think about the things, I was having a conversation online this morning about this, like what created you in this moment. It created all your previous experiences that made you the person you are today. And so if you can curate those experiences a little bit more to be positive and uplifting and allow you to think bigger, then I think those experiences could potentially change your perception of reality. So when I look at businesses, that was a long answer to your question, but when I look at the business experiences that I've had, I'm very thankful for everything that's gone down. I've had good partners. I've had other partners have come in and changed culture and different types of things. And so it's been a great learning experience for me to understand the different levels of business that there are. There's different levels of success, and there's always new things depending on how valuable your company is. There's other curtains you open and different kinds of, people that are positive towards what you're doing and people that want to take advantage and being able to understand some of those red flags up early on.
What's
set
the
up your
pain
company.
moment, though? Your light bulb moment of, you went through the pain and you're like, okay. going forward?
Yeah, I think for me as an entrepreneur and looking at my team and stuff that we put together over the several years, I feel like with the Void, it was a misconception of mine to think that I was going to do the Void forever. As an entrepreneur, you have to be able to think about, I need to separate myself from this experience and create the next thing. Because you're really not, I mean, you really can't be done with one thing. Like it needs to evolve. Mm-hmm. At least as an entrepreneur, you have to evolve, and planning for that exit of when you want to leave, I think is more important or is critical to, I guess, your emotional stability. Mm-hmm. Your emotional stability, and then really being able to look at exits and conflicts and things like that in a positive light. It's like, all right, this is the moment that I know that I need to start looking at taking some of the technology or evolving the technology and creating something new.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I went through some pain with the Void, thinking that was going to be my end goal. I'm going to do the Void till I die.
I thought you were going to do the Void till you die.
Yeah. But it really just is not true. Like, the technology is so new, and there's so much that we can do with it. It was something I needed to step away from and iterate on, and Jump will be several levels above what we even achieved there.
You've changed a lot as a person, I think, just because the Void, we did that for a little bit. You did that, and then that's when we were like doing some technology stuff, and then we didn't talk for a few years, and then circled back around, and he was looking for one of these really fancy new NVIDIA 30 series video cards, and we happen to have them. So we got that set up for his new project. But the interesting thing is now you have, it feels like you've gone through like 20 years of mental maturity after that. Like, you're so much more calm, collected, and clear thinking in your articulation and your thought process. Well, what happened? It's amazing though.
A few things happened, I think, on the business side going through that experience. Changed my perception on reality and how I deal with people and how I look at relationships. And I feel like there was a lot of questions coming out of the Void doing hyper-reality simulators. I did hundreds of them. Like I went through the Void with hundreds of people. And being inside of a virtual reality system like that felt like a dream world, got me to question a lot of things, got me to question just what reality is, And so I actually researched a lot of enlightenment techniques and meditation and NLP and all kinds of ways to help me understand how to create a virtual reality experience that's completely automated that could potentially help somebody down the same path that I've been down. But just the fact that I was inside of the Void so much in this virtual simulation allowed me to have that question, what are the possibilities? What is my true potential, right? Mm-hmm. And having that question can drive a lot of things.
Man, we were talking about earlier when we got a drink earlier, some of these energy drinks.
These are the best.
Water fusions. Yum. We were talking about time, and it's kind of funny because we came to this conversation because we're both in our 40s, now.
Yep.
And it's to the point where you have your maximal peak output from kind of that 40 to 60s. And a lot of people think, gosh, once I'm over 30, it's downhill from here,
Yeah.
But really, statistics show that from your 40s and mid-40s to like late 60s, maybe even 70, that's when your brain has the most neural connections and you invent the most amazing things. Can you talk a little bit about your perspective on time and some of the traits, and being that a lot of the viewers out there are our age or older, but a lot of them are younger.
Yeah.
Maybe you can give some advice for the younger ones out there on that.
Yeah, I think, from my perspective over all the businesses that I've created, there was a period of my time in my 20s where I felt like I needed to burn the candle at both ends in order to be successful. I felt like I needed to work constantly 24/7 in order to be successful, and I found that to actually not be true. And you can do that, but that leads to a very painful life. Mm-hmm. And really, when you look at it, the majority of the hours that you're burning, you're only operating at 20%, 20-30% of your capacity, like your mental capacity, because you've been there was a period of my time where I was drinking Red Bulls and eating Wendy's every night, and I'd stay up for days at a time.
Done that.
And I found that, I was less effective with my team when I was because I just wasn't there. I was completely disconnected, right? And so over the years, doing some of the meditation and stuff that I've done, I found that it's way, way better to have even just a smaller, set of hours that you're 100% effective, and then take a freaking break and go do your thing to relax or whatever it needs to be, and then come back and be 100% effective. And aligning those hours with your team when they're ready to work is way more important than just burning it out, So operating effectively in a period of time is just changed my complete outlook on life, because I can come in at the exact time my team is there. We're operating at 100% for 5 to 6 hours, and then I tell my team, like, it's time to, like, check out, unless you have something super important that's going on, like and there's a deadline, like, check out, go do your thing. You know what your responsibilities are.
5 to 6 hours is the optimal zone.
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
5 to 6 hours of 100% of just being there, but you can only get that if you're taking time to eat well and to exercise and to meditate and whatever those things are that are allowing you to relax. I've just found that it's a lot more effective and a better lifestyle.
We were talking earlier about Jeff Bezos, right? Richest man in the world, runs Amazon, one of the biggest companies in the universe. And he says, look, all this energy and all this time that you put in every day really equates to just one simple thing. Maybe a few decisions a day.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe 3 decisions a day. So all this hasty hustle and bustle and burn yourself out is really unnecessary. Right? And it actually, from like what you said, impedes you, because if you're only running at 20% and 80% of your brain power is going out of the chute, you're just like killing yourself.
Yeah, you literally are killing yourself. Yeah, I feel like that would be, out of all the things that are kind of taught in our industry as entrepreneurs, it's about having effective hours, would be the message that I would like to, hopefully share and debunk this, like, you got to burn it out. When people talk to me about Jump, like, oh, it's a new startup, like, how's that going? Like, is your family even seeing you? And like, of course they are. Like, I come in, and, we have effective hours, and we kick ass, and then I go home, and I chill out, and I hang out with my family, and then the next day, after 7 hours of sleep at night, come in and do the same thing.
Perfect. That's how I operate, too, now, and it's kind of weird. You guys watch Star Wars, right? Like, we're all big Star Wars fans. And it's almost, we were joking about going from using blasters and like, going crazy, to like just using the force. Yes, using the force.
Yeah,
it's too bad though. That most people wait till they kind of get a little gray, get a little older to have that realization. So the big takeaway is, like, start that wherever age you are, but now.
Yeah, start it now. Try to find ways of getting to operate at 100% or even 80% of, like, your capacity through effective hours. So
how do you manage, running a startup, you have a lot of things to have to complete, projects and things and sub-projects. How do you get it done in that amount of time? Do you have a technique of planning and task management that you use?
Yeah, I do, actually. I like treating people like an adult. There is a certain level of scheduling and timing that you need to do, but one of the things that I've really enjoyed is, I feel like when you have an employee that comes to you, or some person on your team that comes to you on a Monday and says, hey, I couldn't get this out of my mind, but it's something really cool I wanted to do, and I just did it. Check this out. They just did something over their weekend on their own personal time to do something for the company, for the cause, whatever it is, the vision, right? And if you reach that level with an employee or somebody, then I believe you're doing something right. And one of those things that helps create that scenario is treating people like an adult. When we go through a scheduling process, or we go through scrums or anything like that, allowing people to create their deadline and then just holding them to it. It's very simple. It's like, you allow them to create it not to you as an owner, but to the team. You allow them to be in a scenario where they create a deadline, where the whole team understands that they're going to have what they're going to get done on a Friday. The whole team understands this. When Friday rolls around, it doesn't matter what that guy did the whole week, as long as he delivers what he said he was going to on Friday, then the team, is awesome. It's a very good process of weeding out people that can be conducive to that type of an environment, because it naturally, exits people that can't comply, right?
That's
it's basically
smart.
like a 2 or 3 strikes and you're out. It's like, dude, the team, you're like letting down the team. You've missed, 3 of your deadlines over the last 3 weeks that you set for yourself. We can't have that. Like, the team's like suffering because you're not doing your stuff. So
This is
really simple.
Great wisdom, though, especially for people doing startups,
Yeah.
Because, boy, if I take your advice back when I was doing a startup, it probably would have gone 80% faster.
Yeah.
Instead of just wasting all this energy and then getting really frustrated and angry and then try to numb myself with drinking and smoking and all this crazy, stupid stuff you do when you're young to try to alleviate the stress,
Yeah, there's some old, thinking that still exists, and the new generation that's coming up just doesn't comply with it. It's if you want an employee to come in and check in at 9 and then check out at 5, they'll do that. But what are they doing it for? They're doing it to sit at the desk because you want them to come in at 9 and check out at 5. You know what I mean?
So just be clear about the outcomes.
Yeah.
And treat them like adults and let them have the flexibility as long as they're hitting those deadlines.
Yeah, as long as they're hitting the deadlines and they're meeting with the team.
So what do you do though if they just screw around and they don't hit your project?
It happens really quick. Like, it's a very quick exit for those type of
people. Quick exit.
Yeah, and it's not coming from me. They let down the team. It's like a very collaborative environment, and so if they're not meeting their deadlines, it's more about letting down the team than it is letting down the company or the owner of the company.
Then you don't look like a bad guy then.
I'm not a bad guy.
Yeah.
They literally
usually
set
before it's like
themselves up.
you got to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as you start like laying it down, like, you got to be here from 9 to 5, they're like, all right, I'll clock in, clock out, and stare at my machine. But that's not inspiring anybody.
Mm-mm.
Like, treating them like an adult and saying, here's your deadline that you created for yourself. I know you're going to rock it out. You're going to kick it. You're going to do it. It's going to be awesome. You're going to make the team look awesome. You're going to make everybody look awesome. I trust in you to do that. You only really have to do that 2 or 3 times, and if they fail on it, then they leave. It's just, It's like water and oil, It's just, they just can't be part of that system. If they want to get a job where they go in and check in at 9 and leave at 5, then they can go do that somewhere else.
Yeah, it's not for startups.
Yeah.
So let me just summarize some of this knowledge here. I have to write things down, otherwise my ADD carries it into virtual reality, hyper reality.
Very good.
So a few things you've said is separate yourself from the experience. You got to just kind of look out from the outside in and evolve and plan for your exit and evolving whatever you're doing. So don't just be stuck thinking you're going to be doing that forever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I know now that when you have a concept idea, even looking at, people have created technologies in the past, most of the time, the guys that are creating technology have a completely different, outcome that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of, through the process, gets packaged and commercialized and then stamped and then shipped out. And they're like, wait, I was trying to do this for this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think understanding that process, that's a natural thing that people will tend to do, especially when you get investors and shareholders involved and they want to see a product. You eventually have to create a product. So understanding that's going to happen and then putting things in place early on to allow you to take those portions of the technology and iterate and create the next piece. To say that you're always going to deliver what you want to deliver in the end, it's pretty tough to do that once you start getting everybody involved, So it's better to plan for that.
You just made me have this entrepreneurial reverse seizure back to flashback. I got into computers originally because I love playing video games, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was I wanted to do computers and I love video games. And then we started put my suit on, started selling these just corporate machines and, education machines, blah, blah. And then we were selling a lot of computers, and we still do that stuff. But then I had this realization about 15 years in. It's been almost 28 years now. Gaming. What do we do in gaming, right? I want to help people play video games and have fun and create cool stuff and program. And so we started creating the Zydex company, 10 years ago. And then my happiness level is way back up there because
you've
now
totally
we're making giant toys,
Yeah, it's so fun. When I walk around in your environment here, you guys have a positive, conducive environment for people, and I could tell that you're allowing people to be passionate about their project and be a part of what you're doing.
That's a struggle,
where they're just
though,
not the worker bees. You actually have an environment that
you got to remind yourself.
Culture.
because, working at other jobs when I was younger, man, you get so ingrained in that regimented
Yeah, absolutely.
clock in, clock out, do what I say. I mean, it's like
Yep.
sometimes your emotions pull you back. So you
Yeah.
got to be conscious. Are you naturally just doing that now with your orgs? You got it, so it's just you flow with that now, or do you have to remind yourself sometimes when things get crazy?
I think I do have to remind everybody has to remind themselves at some point of some of the things that they kind of revert back onto. It's easy to revert into a fear mentality. It's one of our natural things. It's just easier to go to, and so reminding yourself like, oh no, like there's a better choice here. But there are instances where, I've probably overextended a stay for some individuals because I believe in them so much, and that's probably one of my things I gotta work on, right? So there is a point where you just have to say, hey, this is third strike, fifth strike, whatever it is. Hopefully it's not 10th strike, but
I've gotten to those too, man.
You got it.
It's hard because we have empathy,
Yeah,
It's like
but
you care about
there's
people,
a decision you got to make that impacts the culture of your company, and having people that work as a team. There's research I've done and studies that I've read about on how Marines are trained to be in this flow state and to work as a team, and a lot of those same philosophies apply to what I'm talking about.
It's amazing. Okay, so just in the sake of time, what's one big nugget of advice you could give our viewers and want to leave them with?
For the entrepreneurs out there, as I think about that advice, it'd probably be, something that my dad told me actually when I was 12. I actually started airbrushing T-shirts when I was 12 for a movie theater, and I came home and I'd airbrushed like 10 shirts or something with this movie poster on it, and I'd made like $50, and $50 when I was 12 was a lot of money. I was like, "Frick, this is amazing! I made $50 making these T-shirts." And I took it to my dad and I said, "Dad, check this out! I made $50 like airbrushing T-shirts." And he said, "You know what, James?" He said, "Your relationships will be worth way more to you than any amount of money you'll ever make in your life." And that's one of the best pieces of advice that I've had in my life. And those relationships, you never know what those relationships will produce in the future or create in the future. When I was able to get this first seed round of funding from Ken Bretschneider to build the Void concept, I had already built a huge database of relationships with engineers, with game developers, with designers, and location-based stuff over the years in social media network tactics that I just went back to them like, hey, we're going to do this thing I've been talking about for 18 years, and like, let's do it. Like, it wasn't like this recruiting process that I had to go through and like find people. I already had this amazing group of people that already knew me, trusted me, knew what I was about, and I just told them we're doing this thing, and they all joined on.
That's gold. Relationships are everything.
They
And it's
are,
kind of funny, like our
absolutely.
relationship, we're just circle back. Like you texted me, like, we haven't talked for a couple of years. And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, bro, what's up?
And you just like right on
like,
it.
right away.
It was so awesome, man. You saved my butt.
Yeah, because important relationships. Okay, so to sum it up, where can people find you, man?
Yeah, so the new company is Jump, and we're actually on, our website is limitlessflight.com. So we kind of did that as a language kind of talking point, jump at limitlessflight.com. And you can check it out on limitlessflight.com. Our hashtag is limitlessflight on most social media networks. Some of them we had to switch it up, but if you just look up VR wingsuit flying, you'll probably find us. And then we are I closed a seed round of funding that we just did, and then we're working on our Series A to open locations 2021 after this COVID stuff passes. We're still doing a lot of things in the VR space to make it safe for people. Even when COVID is over, people still be sensitive to it. The nice thing about the Jump system that we've created is everybody is actually separated in their own individual room, even though we do merge your virtual Jump. So you can actually see each other.
It feels like you're
completely different rooms. So it's like the most perfect location-based, COVID-safe environment. So you go into your individual rooms and we merge you in the virtual existence, and then you all can jump.
Dude, exciting. So limitlessflight.com.
Yep.
And that's the best place. Anywhere else, though, or if people kind of reach out to you, investors, opportunists, opportunities, you know, that
Yeah,
you wanna plug
I'm
in?
free to have you guys email me if you want to talk more. It's James at Limitless Flight. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
James at Limitless Flight.
Yep, and then I'm on LinkedIn. You can check that out.
That's cool, man. Dude,
Yeah, thanks so much.
I appreciate you. Man,
Yeah.
this is great, guys. Hey, so guys, again, there's no fee for this. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars for this. If you wanted this kind of coaching, one-on-one, I think you'd have to finance that, you know, or have a fundraise to be able to get it. But it's free here. We only ask that you do a couple things here. One, execute. Watch this over and over again if you're an entrepreneur, if you're thinking about starting a company, execute. Two, share it with friends and loved ones who may need this knowledge. So guys,
Absolutely.
thank you for watching Dan's Millionaire Code. We'll see you guys in a week.
Thanks.